Gary! I turned around as Mr. Damage ran over to me. His face said it all, and as much as I wanted to alleviate the worries inside of him, what could I say that will make a difference? We were in a disastrous situation on the Higania space station. This station was set up to overlook the outside of the solar system, but we were absorbed in the spinning caustic swirl that was Wormhole 26. Stay calm. Are all the scientists in their hubs? I asked. Mr. Damage nodded his head so fast that I swore it would pop off. If he did lose his head, I wouldn't have been surprised, because we were in a dangerous situation as it was. Tim was standing on the bridge looking past the blinking dashboard while everyone was running around like headless chickens. That man never wavered as he stood there. Tim was an unmoving stature as he looked up at the series of alerts blasting splashes of color all over the display. It wasn't like they could have attacked it. We were mere humans, and the thing that we were fighting was a manifestation of the universe. An oddity that played by its own rules, and once the space station went in, we were going to have to play by its rules. It was a catastrophic cosmic storm. The station rocked and shook like we were on a roller coaster. Lights flickered and the engines bent a knee to the overwhelming weight of the wormhole's walls crushing down with such disdain. But it was suddenly over. Tim said,
"Gentlemen, we've reached the other side. Gary, come here."
I went over to him and he laid his hand on my shoulder.
"We are not home anymore. Find out where this is, now."
As much as I wanted to refuse his request, for the space station barely survived that misadventure, we needed information right now. The space region we were in was different, yet familiar. I blinked and stared at those planets through the scope and still could not believe it. This was the solar system. But that's not possible. This wormhole was the object of our attention for a long time. Our supervisors have determined that there was possibly a new world waiting for us beyond this wormhole. They had been watching over this wormhole for the past 50 years, with me coming to this position 3 years ago. "Gary," Mr. Damage asked as he came up to me, "you found anything yet?" I gritted my teeth. "I found nothing. No, that's the problem. We always sent stuff through, but we always lost the signal of it. Now, we got sent through the wormhole. We survived, but we're not in the same place. Well, we can probably go back through the wormhole. Right now, McGraw is talking about it with the others. Sad that the gravity of a nearby dwarf planet jettisoned us into the wormhole. That's terrible luck. Do we have enough fuel to push us back, though? Because we're not that far from the horizon. But you can tell McGraw Earth is close to us. I think this wormhole sent us back to our own system." Mr. Damage's brows crinkled in surprise. "You must be joking, right?" "I ain't." "But how?" It was still a surprise to me, so I couldn't give him an answer. We knew very little about these parts of the universe, especially a hole that broke through the space continuum. It was why I was frightened before we went in, for I assumed we were all going to die. We were supposed to be crushed under the weight of the gravity, or burnt to a crisp by the unbearable heat energy. Yet we lived. Mr. Damage turned to me with a nervous smile. "Don't know how. At least we survived it. But you don't seem so happy. Because it's not our solar system. It just looks like it. But I thought you said it was our solar system. I mean, that is what I'm seeing through the scope, right? It looks like Earth. So what are you saying?" "You're right about look alike, but that's about it. When I checked the coordinates in relation to where we are currently on the map, nothing is in its right place. Because Earth is in a different orbit. And it ain't only Earth. Because the Sun has created an odd orbital relationship with the other planets. The First Armada and the Russian space stations are not orbiting Earth, plus the wormhole spat us out in a different zone. We're not close to where we started. Now we're closer to Earth. We're supposed to be at the edge of the Delta 6 system. That is ridiculous. McGraw has got to know this. Even if he did, would it matter? So, Mr. Damage and I went to Tim. He was confused until he decided we needed more information. So we sent out distress signals toward Earth, but got back nothing. They were either ignoring us or our connections were not picked up. Mr. Damage said, "We're this close to Earth. We only have to send a probe down there to see what's going on. Maybe their communication system is down right now?"
Well, Damage, go check it out. Go down to Earth and see what's going on.
"I'll come with you," I said. The uncertainty was going to kill me far faster than finding out what was going on, so I would rather go than stay here looking at charts. Damage and I left for the storage unit, put on new attire to get through re-entry, and jumped into one of the pods. Looking at the drop coordinates, I checked the mapping range of what was Earth's surface to where we needed to go. I called Tim from the communication system. "Hey, you seeing this? It looks like the images match up." Tim said,
You're the one that said it wasn't Earth. That's what it looks like to me.
"You realize they haven't responded to us?" "I don't like this, Tim. Hella weird to me."
Then go down there and make it not weird. Simple. Just tell them we're up here with a wrecked station. Tell them we need support sent here.
I wasn't sure how to respond to that. The map looked exactly like it was supposed to look, but something about this didn't seem right. There was this horrendous emotion in the back of my head telling me to abort this mission. But I kept moving forward.
That's Newlands right there. Anyway, that's where we're going to send you, alright? Let us know what they tell you, because we're blind up here.
We launched off the space station and burnt through the atmosphere of Earth. I glanced out the window, awash in the fiery red of the heat that threatened to destroy this pod if it broke through its exoskeleton. Mr. Damage checked the massive data being thrown at him from the screen. My eyes drifted as a black mark swerved from below us, past us, and up into the void of space. It shocked me for sure. Was that a ship? It moved fast, but I said nothing about it, for we were about to hit Earth. "Brace yourself," Damage said. The pod blasted into the sea, and after a shaky experience sitting in the seemingly death trap, the bags blew up and buoyed us back up to the top. Damage unstrapped himself and climbed out. I followed, and we had to make the trek from the open sea to the beach line using our inflatable boat. We came out of that boat and got ready to get transmissions up. Our location was important to Tim because we didn't know if we were safe. That didn't go as well as we hoped. For one, the locator was phasing in and out of its connection, but it wasn't connected back to our command center. It was connected to something else. We traveled across the sands and tried to connect our comms to headquarters, but all we got back was static if we were lucky. But mostly, our connections fizzled out. I growled, "Why won't these guys answer?" Mr. Damage groaned and walked ahead of me. "We're probably going to have to get access to a civilian phone and contact them from there. Is there a safe house near here? They dropped us near the city the base is at, but that's like 2 miles. Peter, I ain't walking that far." "Don't worry, there's a town over this hill. Come on, we can make the call there." We moved quickly and walked from the beach to the town some distance away. I still tried to work with the map to ascertain our location in relation to my prior data. None of this was adding up. He looked at me, then looked up and around him. When his eyes touched me again, it was with a pensive stare. "Does this really not look like Earth to you?" "It is Earth, but it also isn't. I'm looking at this right now, and we're still in the same coordinates based off the triangulation of the bodies." He shook his head and exhaled. We needed to find more information about this place, so our best decision was to venture forward into the unknown. It was opened out to us, so we might as well. The closer we got, the more I realized this was not the Earth we knew. "Peter, what the hell is this place?" Mr. Damage shook his head. "I have no idea." This was as small as a town, but that was the only thing that made sense. All of the buildings were made of glass or something similar to it. There were numerals and symbols overlaid on holographic displays of pictures blinking in the sky over this town like fast-paced advertisements. I would have ran away if I had not seen any people. Even though we were odd, for their clothing was nothing like anything I saw before. "This place is amazing. It looks almost like Earth," Mr. Damage said. Almost, for there were slight differences for sure. As far as picking up on life forms within the vicinity, our scanners indicated their locations to us. That's when I saw one advertisement. It was my face. "You look handsome," Mr. Damage said. My handsomeness mattered little to me. That image of my face disappeared, and all I wanted to know was why an advertisement appeared of my face. My common sense kicked in, and I said, "Before we go anywhere near that area, let's set up some probes and put down the magnetron diverters. I don't trust this." A loud noise made me stop and look around. Vehicles. A lot of them sped toward us. Mr. Damage said, "We won't get a chance." Those vehicles screeched to a stop, and men jumped out in clean suits that made them look like bargain aesthetic secret agents. But their guns aimed at our heads made them more serious than the sin of the devil. Mr. Damage cried, "Hey, what are you—" He was swiftly shut up with a jab of the submachine gun against his head. I stiffened and became stone. My life was sent from a mystery to hell in 1 second. Our tools were taken, our identification cards too. Heads were quickly wrapped with hoods, our hands tied, legs locked by cuffs, and we were thrown into the vehicles. It was disorienting, but we could not see a thing. The only solace that we had was the bumps on the road, knocking me around. I did not have any idea of where I was or where I was going. It was a gripping experience as my throat got hard. My wrists burned from the pain of the bonds around them. I looked around and saw only darkness with specks of light coming from the tiny holes in the fabric to prove I was not dead yet. My breathing got more frantic. I swore I became a fortune teller, analyzing the scraps of light in a desperate attempt to tell my future. How much time passed, I could not say. All I knew was that when their hands touched me again, my head was dizzy and my throat was drier than a bone. I swallowed as I was pushed and moved along by these men. My next residence was the cold floor. I hit it with a thud. They removed the black hood and revealed the cube room as small as a phone booth. The men were dressed in black army attire and their faces were covered. They stepped out without saying a word to me. My throat lumped as I seized up on the floor. The clanking thud of the door shocked me, but the idea of imprisonment would do such a thing to me. I was alone. They shifted a flap that revealed those eyes that glared at me. It also gave me the only shred of light. Before I could say anything, it was closed, and darkness overcame me. I could not be held like this. "Hey!" I heard nothing. "Please let me go! Hey!" They gave me no hope to grasp onto. My growl vibrated throughout the room which my worm state could not fight against. Walls surrounded me, and nothing else. Not even a bed was afforded to me. The silence was my friend. Nothing provided a crueler testament to my insanity than my degrading body. My stomach lurched as time passed, and it never settled, for it travelled over every part of my body. I struggled to keep my eyes open or bother to break my restraints. Even my fingers were harder to move. My throat dried up faster than the Sahara and gave me the most pain. It was like I was crawling over the hot sand without clothes, so any scraps of food and water I got were like finding a treasure chest. I had to lick water into my mouth and bite food in small portions thanks to my restrained hands. No amount of begging made them want to release me. They would check on me occasionally through that flap, as if to make sure I did not kill myself. Ingrates. The thought did cross my mind, but I was too much of a coward to do it. I was a failure. The strength left my bones, and my breath was shorter than my determination to change my existence. I almost considered taking my life again. Almost. The door opened, and my eyes closed from too much light. I was taken up roughly and pushed out of the room. I was almost overjoyed, but I remembered quickly I was still in their tight custody. Pulled down a hall, I was carried to a new room. The next thing I knew, I was sitting in a chair. I heard my breathing, but the slow thuds of their boots kept me lucid. This was insane, and I could not keep my mouth shut anymore. I said, "Hey!" A cough escaped me from my cracked throat. It was a deathly emotion for me as I sat there getting not one answer from anyone. I said, "Please tell me what's going on. Please. Hello?" They never answered me. There were more shoe thuds, so I listened more intently. A series of thuds sounded more particular than the others. Or was it because this was the only person moving compared to the many others that were once moving? This him? That voice sounded eerily familiar. I heard a grunt and some mumbled grumble of voices. The rising and snapping crack of boots against the floor made my heart thump in the darkness, just waiting on it. The person was heading toward me. My fist clenched in anticipation. The shoes squeaked. Everything became quiet. The covering was removed from my head and my eyes blinked. A face revealed itself in the descended light behind my head. Not my head. His head, which had my face on it. Either I was confused or I was still back in the car asleep, but if I was thinking consciously about this, was I really sleeping? It was me, or someone that looked like me, yet he had a different air about him. This was not me. So what was I in this grand scheme of things? My head swirled with a confusing myriad of thoughts that controlled my emotions for ages as I sat there under his scrutinizing gaze. I fought up enough courage to speak. "Where am I? Who are you?" His eyes narrowed at me. "Why did you leave your station?" That was an odd question, so I shook my head. "Who are you?" My twin mumbled something before saying, "Answer my question, or I will kill you." I snorted. "Why should I? What is going on?" "You don't need to know anything." Even if he did not tell me anything, I understood I was captured by the security forces in my own country, because my arrival on Earth was not communicated to them. As far as they were concerned, I was a threat until I proved otherwise. It's just this guy looked just like me. It threw me for a loop, and I was not sure if I should mention it or if he was blind himself. Well, speaking around in circles was not going to get me anywhere. I began. "I am an intelligence officer of the Hagania space station. I left the station because I had to. It's damaged, damn it. We got sent flying into wormhole 26, which was one of our directives, and got a rough ride through the tumultuous storm of a wormhole. Now, here we are. I don't know who you are, but goddamn, let me out of here. Check with Mr. McGraw, our lead back at the station. We're not enemies. All we want is help. But your communications are down, so we had to do an unscheduled insertion. He said nothing and turned his head. That was when I became conscious of the other people in the rather empty but metal-walled room. All were wearing gas masks, all black from head to toe, with eyes stricken with murder for anything that moved. Namely me. Mr. Damage was not here though, so I decided to ask about him. My lookalike said, "You need to focus on yourself right now." "Alright, yeah. How about you actually help me do that? Release me from this and then we can talk, or I can do whatever you need me to do." "What are you doing here?" "I told you what I'm doing here already, now release me!" "I can't release you. This is my world, this ain't your world." What was that supposed to mean? Those words hit me a little differently. Maybe it was because he said it with such a flat undertone, or maybe it was because that tone showed his disregard for my place in this world. Either way, it irritated me. This is my operations, and you can't tell me anything about what I am or what I am not. Bring me Commander Patrick. He's our project controller and our supervisor on the ground here, because I don't know you. We don't have a Commander Patrick, and your project is not on our records. Neither is your space station. I don't think you realize what's going on here. You don't exist. What the fuck was he on about? Also, I might as well say it, or better yet, maybe I should ask it. Why do you look like me? I snorted and chuckled. You're the one that's supposed to tell me that. You're the one who came to our world. So you talk. Your world? This didn't make any sense. There was not a different world. It was the same world. This was Earth. Or was it, really? I swallowed my anger for a second and relayed my findings that regarded my misdirected readings that differed from my stored readings on Earth. He said, "Well, welcome to our world." I tilted my head and said, "This is Earth, no matter how you slice it. You do call it that, right?" "Yeah, I call it that. But this is my planet, it ain't yours." My vision blurred as my mind twirled with a tornado of thoughts, most of them negative and debilitating. I didn't want to be here anymore. "All right, whatever, it's not my planet. Just help me and my partner to get off this rock. You can keep it. We'll figure out a way to get ourselves back to our home." "Why would you assume I would let you go?" My heart stopped, and I fidgeted from the strike of uncertainty that hit me then. I looked into his eyes, and I saw nothing good. Because it's the right thing to do. You assume I'm a good person. I'm not. My head flared with pain as the image of his face fluctuated in front of me from my boyish charm to a bottomless pit. I shook the chaos out of my head. You have no use for me. You're just going to keep me here in that damned prison cell, and for how long and for what? He smiled for the first time. I was surprised when they told me who they found. They told me that they found me, with the same name and everything. Gary Dean. It was weird. Another version of me. I finally understood what he meant when he said he wasn't a good person. Those eyes were the eyes of a predator. The way he looked at me was like the meat he wanted to gorge on. You say I have no use for you. No, I have a lot of use for you, And I do find it interesting that there is another Earth with people just like us. That is interesting to me. Very interesting. Son of a bitch. I should have kept my mouth shut. What was this ingrate planning to do? I controlled my rage because I needed more information. Even if I could not escape their custody, just on the off chance I could probably stop them. I said, "What are you planning to do to me?" "Well, when they try to kill me, I can just use you. It will be a great cover for anything I need. But that will be when it's necessary." "Kill you? For what?" "Well, technically they'll be killing you, not me. But let's just say I'm an important person. You know some folks, they're envious of people at the top. I didn't get there because I worked hard. I got to the top because I was smart, and I'm going to continue outsmarting my opponents." I could not believe what I was hearing. Every part of me wanted to escape and get away. But what could I do? I was tied down like a hog waiting for my slaughter, whenever that was going to be. He smiled, knowing what I was thinking. "Send him back. I'll see you in a little while." "Wait! What about my colleagues? What happened to them? What are you going to do to them?" "That's none of your business. Worry about yourself. You might survive a little longer if you do that." I was too dumbstruck to respond, but the men took me up by then and dragged me out of the room. Back in my prison, I was stuck, staring at the walls. I needed to get out of here. My groans echoed against the walls harmlessly, but this disconcerting feeling wrecked me. I was about to get myself killed. Well, he wasn't me, not in the normal way anyways, but he was going to be the cause of my death. Or was I the one doing it? I growled and got wrapped in the darkness that I hated with every inch of my life left to me. So much of my life wasted away as I laid there. What was I supposed to do? I rolled in distraught. I gasped in breathless desperation, and my heart slowed as nutrients became less than my time. Though my mind waned, I never gave up. I could not give up. The door opened again, and I was lifted from my cell. I was carried out and found myself in the bright light of the outside world. My eyes blinked as I was held up by the men from either side of me. In the broken shards of light, I saw myself standing across from me. "Hello, Gary." I scoffed. "You're not funny." He smiled and nodded his head. "I'm glad you've been cooperative with me about this." "Cooperative? If you want me to be cooperative, release me and then let me decide." I could only hope he was that stupid, but he gave me a veiled response. "You already have." My heart skipped as I stood there befuddled with his riddles. I stared in confusion as he stepped into the light. My eyes adjusted, and a fantastic city opened out toward me. Tall buildings that raised into the clouds and disappeared into the white of the sky. So much color was below the cloud, from the black stain of the skyscraper's glass to the varied rainbow of the glass buildings. Cars sped down the road with a blur from my height, for we were on top of a building with a helicopter pad. I reckoned we were about 3 floors up. Though I was weak, the edge of this building looked more appetizing than any food scraps any of these guards ever gave me. I could survive it. My only problem after that would be getting out of my bounds. I was going to die anyway, so why not? Jumping off the building's edge would be so much better than anything this power-hungry bastard would be planning. I would rather be dead than help this bastard with his schemes, whether I agreed with it in some sick alternative line of the universe or not. "Here your friend comes now," he said. My hair lifted in a ravenous rage of wind that got displaced from a helicopter landing down in front of us. My jaw pulled back and tightened as I stood there. Tim stepped down from the helicopter and smiled. He looked refined in his fitted, long black suit. It looked like Tim, but I knew this was not the Tim I had known for years. This Tim stepped up to my twin and said,
President.
President? My twin nodded his head. Good to see you. I never thought we would meet like this, but here we are. I looked at the man that resembled me, yet he was nothing like me. Tim said,
Listen, I'm just happy to serve you to the best of my ability.
Then Tim turned to me with a curious look.
This the guy? He's a spitting image of you.
My twin spoke. Yes. You remember Tim? Where is the real Tim? Tim said.
Oh, that's the guy I'm replacing, right?
My twin scowled at me. Yeah, don't worry, he's been disposed of. But you, I'm going to keep you around. So don't worry. I won't get rid of you. Yet. I wanted to vomit after hearing that. Tim laughed.
Another version of you is as valuable as gold.
There is no way in hell I'm helping you or him. I ain't doing nothing for none of y'all. My twin snapped his finger. A pain ruptured through my gut when one of the guards slammed his elbow into my stomach. I doubled over and groaned as my knees bent and my hopes prostrated themselves before my new master. I was supposed to rule my own life, but for the first time, I would prefer anybody else to be its king. The thud of his boots cracked into the floor as he came in front of me. You're lucky it's not your face. But I told them I need that part of you, so you can take it anywhere else. And that means anywhere. I looked up at myself, and I swore I saw the devil in those eyes. He continued, I don't take disrespect from my own citizens, and that applies to you as well. Don't think because you have my face that you're getting preferential treatment. You're my tool. Until I discard you. He smiled. Play nice, yeah? I gasped as my legs shivered. He said, Pick him up. I was pulled up, and he grinned. He said, Welcome to my world, little brother. His laughter left me shaking, and no wind was blowing to cool the burn of the sun. And it probably never would. Hey sci-fi horror fans, it's Thomas. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to give it a thumbs up. Craving for another scary story? Click on that video on your screen. Until next time, everyone, and remember, stay cosmic.